Yeah, it sucks that you're having that issue. I wonder what that's about. I guess I should have looked more into it last time that was happening. 'Cause, ugh. I think last time I just ignored it, assuming there was just, I don't know, something with a connection or something, because I had streamed this game, grounded several times before with no issue, so maybe I just didn't take the issue enough seriously. One of the updates might have screwed me up, since they're constantly updating that game. Or maybe something about my computer changed. Please adjust the slider until the cat and dog are friends. Are your graphics drivers all up to date? It's a good question. Till the number 5 becomes 9. That is a 9. Please adjust the slider until you. I love how this game can't even like not troll me in the in the start menu. Please adjust the slider until you stop adjusting the slider. There. Which of these two made up words below is the most appealing to you? Occuboinical, scrumptious. Occuboinical, I guess. Please don't adjust the slider. Do you know what time it is right now? Is it the time that it is right now? Wait, is the time that it is right now the correct time? It's like a philosophical question, I guess. What is time anyway, bruh? Already with the bullshit. Is there anything about yourself you haven't told me? I haven't told you anything. Help? No. You come back to visit me? No. I love how it still starts off with the Stanley Purple 2 toxic ass. Fucking.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How in... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Me having been muted the whole time I was talking.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it.
He went on that rant so long. I was actually gonna say something, but he went on that rant so long that I forgot.
Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go.
Let me think.
There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things.
Well, now I don't have to create an argument.
All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see? I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
Right. The amount of time I've spent just in this broom closet.
You know what? I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us the silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
Wait, is he leaving for it? Bruh. Voice, you are an enigma. I actually don't appreciate the stickers he put on Bucket. Can we take these off? Is there a way to? You don't just dress up Bucket like a toy or something, all right? Bucket's important to me.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the Bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
He actually did. He actually went. Stupid fucking voice actually did go and put the collectible in here.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Oh, God. Well, for anybody who didn't watch the last, I think it was a stream before, no. 2 or 3 streams before when I was last streaming the Stanley Purple Ultra Deluxe. After we went through the new content section, he started adding a bunch of really cheap bullshit like the collectibles, like the balloons in the office back there. I do actually appreciate that they stayed there, and now they're actually just part of the rest of the game.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now.
Whoa, wait, where is it?
Calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one
No.
bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work. for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
The thing I love about that is I just happened to see somebody else play that path yesterday without the bucket, and the dialogue is totally different. Just
All
having
of his
the bucket
co-workers were
alone.
gone. What could it mean?
Makes
Stanley
it so
decided to go
different.
to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I think this is the first time I've actually just went ahead and gone left. Is this some kind of a game? Trust the completionist instinct. So I'm talking about, even like this room, just because I went through the new content area, is different. How can you tell you've spotted one? What makes them float in the air? Who took these pictures of them? Figlies are hard to find. Is that what they're called? Figlies? Red room. Maybe we are the collectibles. Shut the frick up. There will be a reward for finding them all. Oh, right. See, I was trying to talk before, but you know, the narrator never shuts up. I was gonna say, the bucket thing is maddening because he's made me care about the bucket. And then he makes fun of me for caring about the bucket. And then he does things to threaten to take away the bucket that he's made me care about. Like, it's some of the most psychologically fucked up shit ever. And it's funny on some level, but it's also not funny at all.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Executive, bruh, this bathroom is nice as hell. Hello? I've got the feeling money's for stealing, but not yours, of course. Say that's a lovely purse. Hey!
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
I also kind of like Stanley, but I thought we agreed they're called Figlies. Hello? Business strat, bruh. Okay. I don't know what this is for, but... Is this thing stopped? Are we stuck in here forever? I've already stopped dancing. Let me out. Wait, what? Yeah, send me back into the same place. Does it go down? Whispering Stanley? This fucking... Is this a room where you listen to music? Toxic. That's the door I came from, right? Can't go back. That's the bathroom. You can go back to the bathroom one more time. That would be great if another figure spawned in here.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
Yeah, that's where the narrator talks so long, I actually just will forget what I
Stanley
was going to
just
say.
sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. "2845.
Sir, I heard you. Me and Bucket are just busy exploring the room. Relax.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Did I get it? Did I get the password wrong? Why is he talking to me like an idiot? It was 2845, right? Was it 2485? Do I have dyslexia? Wait.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
I like Stanley. Bruh. That can't be the way I'm supposed to go. The elevator isn't even there, bruh. There's no ground. Oh, I guess there is.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Jesus. Do we go back up? Is that a thing? Ah, shit. He was trying to get
Wait,
off before it
Stanley
went.
said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
Okay, at least there was a reason to come back up, I guess. Alright, what
Here
about
we
the
are,
number
said
3?
Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button.
He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. "Wow," he said. "The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life." Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock. After taking some time to show the bucket around the boss's office, Stanley at last went to the keypad, where he began eagerly pressing the number 3 again and again.
Okay, so if I press something different, he's just not going to say anything. I guess he's just done talking in general. Alright, my bad. I'm only up here because I accidentally pressed that button. You didn't have to make fun of me.
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly. A hint of regret nagged in the back of Stanley's mind. Should he? Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, "Mind Control Facility."
Or...
Although this passageway had the word "escape" written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
That's fine, as long as we're together. I
The
don't
door
care what
behind
happens
them was
to us.
not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Magic red hole. Nothing bad could happen here. Don't like that.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Do this. Haha!
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death.
Except that was it, and Bucket is okay.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Where's Bucket? Bucket is not dead, don't do that. The Bucket welcomes you to the grand exhibit. You are now standing at the precipice of knowledge. Much like a bucket itself, the human mind is frequently empty within, a cavernous void. But through the... There's nothing wrong with Bucket. Bucket is fine. But through use of the exhibit in front of you, the mind becomes full and enriched and substantiated. Knowledge of the bucket and its history is the only true knowledge we really have. Will you take what you learn here out with you into the world? Will you accept with an open mind what may be challenging about the information in this exhibit? Will you change the lives of yourself and your loved ones as a result of this exhibit? Or will you turn a blind eye and continue to live as you were, in ignorance and darkness? Bucket's not dead, but also, I'm glad Bucket has such an incredible
Can you see how arrogant
exhibit.
it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
I mean, that's facts. 25 buckets. A photograph of 25 buckets, the greatest number of buckets ever captured on camera. The photographer experienced catatonic shock for several weeks as a result of the euphoria from exposure to this many buckets at once. I mean, but it's not even, it's way more than 25 buckets. This is madness. This is madness. A bucket with two handles. This bucket is depicted as having two handles. Such a design has never been created in real life, having been deemed too dangerous and recklessly experimental. Every year, dozens are put to death just for attempting it. Honestly, as they should be. As they should be. Inferno bucket. I love this game. A replica of the Inferno bucket, which in the medieval era was so powerfully alluring that it drove dozens of nations to war with one another for control of it. Billions died, and yet in spite of it all, the simple fact remains, no one can control a bucket. That is also true. That is also facts. Let's see. The stress bucket, an analogy. Presented without commentary. Okay. I appreciate that. Cave drawing. While we know that buckets predate the existence of mankind, we do not know by how long. The cave drawing depicts early man's discovery of the practical uses of the bucket, by which time the bucket had already likely been around for several millennia. Notice in these drawings how the bucket is allowing itself to be used, having judged humanity to be worthy of its treasures. Praise the bucket, praise it.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
I like this lady. We are in total agreement. I hope she stays and that goddamn asshole never comes back. The hanging bucket. This piece symbolizes the necessary relationship between bucket and humanity. However clear our grasp of the bucket may be, there is yet more that is always out of reach. This distance inevitably is for our own good. I mean, you could basically just tell me to jump. I'm not falling. What the fuck?
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision for...
It looked like something got cut off there just now.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
Is it? I know it's sad, but honestly, all I can think about right now is I'm just so glad Bucket is okay. That's legit all that's on my mind right now. Like, even when she said, let them kill Stanley, I was like... Part of me was like, you know what? As long as Bucket makes it, I'm kind of good. I'm kind of okay with it.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
And I know that's kind of fucked, but that's how I felt. For real. So.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining...
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Okay, so I guess this time we don't click escape.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 28. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
And we're back.
Stanley and the
And I
bucket
was
walked
muted
straight
for some
ahead
of
through
that,
the
I'm
large
sure.
door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Okay. I wanted to click it again to turn off the lights.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
The amount of dialogue they recorded merely for the presence of Bucket. As they should, because Bucket is important to all of us.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Hell yeah. Oh, there's like little number things. Hold on. Let's try clicking the number things real quick. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? First of all, I don't even see a 4. Second of all, I think we all know that the voice is just messing with me and none of that means anything.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
We could be the ones in control.
But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
I like that ending. That one was good. And you know what? Since that one ended on an actual positive note instead of something horrible, I think we can just go ahead and end off here.